Hello everybody, this is IndieGeek, and today I'm taking a look at Actual Sunlight. So this is a game by Will O'Neill, and it has been available for a while now on, I believe, Indie Game Stand and Desera, but today it comes out on Steam. So I'm doing kind of my impressions slash review of the game now that it's releasing on Steam, and it should be $5 because that is what it was on the other markets. And of course, I will link in the description to where you can purchase it on Steam, as well as a link to the web page in case you would like to purchase it on a different distribution platform. Okay, so I do need to say right off the bat real quick, this game deals heavily with depression and thoughts of suicide. So if that is going to offend you, if that is going to bother you, you may want to, basically, be advised. Like, viewer discretion advised here. Like, be prepared for what's going to happen here. So I'm just going to jump in, show off maybe the first 10-15 minutes of the game, and kind of go over my thoughts overall. Alright, so we will play in English, but you can see that there are quite a few language options, which is always nice. Alright, so as I said, please note Actual Sunlight deals with extremely mature themes, including depression and thoughts of suicide. Player discretion is strongly advised, and this game is not appropriate for players under the age of 18. Do you want to continue? Yes, of course. Why kill yourself today, when you could masturbate tomorrow? By Evan Winter. So this is our main character, Evan Winter. I know what you're thinking. Why keep getting up, day in and day out, even though your life is going nowhere? No raises, no promotions, no hope, no future. And, let's face it, no love. But don't feel bad for yourself. Feel bad for exploited immigrants who have their fingers shattered while stocking shelves on the graveyard shift at monolithic retailers. Feel bad for the soldiers of pointless wars who have their arms blown off by IEDs. Feel bad for arthritic, long-haul truck drivers who need every firm grasp they have left for the dark roads and bottom-crashing races ahead. No matter how hard things get, none of those people can live the life that you can. A life of pathetic, dick-punching resignation. You are lucky. You have food, you have water, and you have shelter. Shelter that specifically includes at least one room with a locking door, an internet connection, and a computer you don't share with your elderly parents. No king leaves you too exhausted from one type of hammering to indulge in another. No bishop lives to tell you not to bash yours. There's never been a better time in the history of mankind to be completely, cripplingly, devastatingly alone, and yet here you are, thinking about giving up on the good times, not realizing that you still have so much to live for, that there is still so much to jerk off to. After all, the world is alive with people as fat, shallow, and broken as you are, alive with beautiful women that have been lied to all their lives, who get on buses bound for your pornography, alive with the seething madness alive with the seething sadness of all of our breaking dreams. And I hope that you read these words and realize that there is still so much inside of you, just waiting to come out. I hope you promise yourself to live to see the day that you truly fall in love at first sight. Lock your eyes onto a look you've waited a lifetime to see. Hit the pause button, take a deep breath, and know what it would be like to be wanted. Even if it isn't for the right reasons, by anybody, if only for a moment. Patient transcript. Okay, so At this point, I'm going to kind of say, like, this is how our story is played out. Basically, we've got we basically read through various stories written by Evan Winter, as well as patient transcripts with a therapist. So that is kind of how we gain the whole story. So the doctor says, "Why did you set your alarm clock for 5 a.m. every morning, even though you would never get up for it? Why hit snooze for 2 hours?" "I wanted to start exercising. I mean, look at me. I had to." "Then why didn't you?" "I don't know. I guess the night before, you feel like tomorrow will be different. Every night you think tomorrow is the day you're going to do it. Start exercising? Start everything." So now we actually get to play. So basically the way this is going to work out is we can interact with things that bring up different story points, and at this point I'm not going to read too much more of what's going on. I'm going to kind of skip through things, but I think you probably understand the point of what's going on as far as the story, as well as how we're going to get the story. But I want to move a little bit forward and kind of head to the next section of the game. So there is also there are scenes that take place at work. There are scenes that take place on the bus and waiting for the bus, stuff like that. So basically, we are going through the life of Evan Winter, and we kind of see like this really kind of depressing kind of downfall, basically, like as he slowly heads his way closer and closer to committing suicide, which obviously is kind of the entire point of the game. Again, sorry for skipping through all the text here. There is a particular bit of text that I would like to get to at some point. So at this point, I'm going to kind of talk about as far as like an art style goes. Some people may be upset, like, yeah, it's made in RPG Maker. Personally, that doesn't bother me. One of my favorite games of the past couple years, I think it came out last year, was To the Moon, which had a very similar kind of thing to this one, where it was a very story-based game, but done in the form of an RPG. And personally, I think that works really well. I think that this kind of RPG style, and that is a line that's really important. It's like, go to the roof and jump off. And that's kind of the line that is kind of the crux of everything in the game. So, again, I apologize for skipping past the text. It's just what's going to happen. The reason mostly being that I played through all of the games, so I know what's happening. I don't want to spoil too much of what's going on here, because a lot of the game is about kind of watching this slow descent and kind of watching the decision-making process. And so on top of, I'll go ahead and save my game. I should say that the game took me roughly an hour to play through, and I did read all the text, and you're going to want to read all the text, basically. Because that's how you get the entire story. And this is actually the bit that I wanted to get to, so I will read through this. This is actually from Will O'Neill himself, who is the developer of the game. So he says, "Please read this if you are a young person. If you have any fear about putting this project out, or if I have any fear about putting this project out, it's that somebody who is in the midst of a difficult time growing up will see this game and think that it applies to them. I'm not going to say that I was not a lot like you. I probably was. I've struggled with feelings of anger and depression since I was very young. No more than 12 or 13 years old. I don't need to get into what the problems, both causing and caused by this, were and still are. Excuse me. I think the things that happen in the game make them pretty clear. It's also pretty clear where all of this is headed. But listen, the fact that you are young means in and of itself that you still have a lot of time to change things. That doesn't mean that you are going to get everything you want, but I promise that you can do a lot better. That you can do a lot better than you will if you give yourself over to despair. It's when you get into your late 20s and early 30s, like the protagonist in this game, and like me, that a lot of the choices you made earlier can start to come seriously into play. A lot of doors can begin to close, a lot of things start to go on without you. I've been the way I am my entire life, but let me tell you something, it's different now. And I'm seeing more and more how things will only get even more difficult over even more time. In the end, that's what this game is about, an end game. Excuse me, I'm going to grab a drink of water just real quick. Alright, sorry about that. Somebody whose pain has slowly risen in excess of their ability to deal with it. Somebody whose options have become totally disconnected from fantasies and regrets that they can't turn away from. This game is not a game, it's a portrait. I've created it to document something that I think is human and beautiful and real, and if you appreciate that, great. That's what art is. But don't get it twisted. It's about a 30-something corporate dead-ender with no youthful energy. No people his own age who haven't moved on in life that he can turn to. And no time or money left to change or undo any of those things. I don't care how fucked up you think your life is. If you aren't at least 25, that ain't you. So don't. Don't you fucking dare. And that is really kind of a very important kind of part of this game. Is, because it is a game that deals with suicide and it deals with depression, and without getting too personal about it, because of course I don't want to go too much into it. I've dealt with depression. I've been around depression. I've dealt with lots of other people who've been through a lot of the thoughts in this, and I'm only 21, so I definitely see where he's coming from. It is really important to realize when you're in high school, when you're in middle school, when you're when you're in college, like there's a lot of life ahead, and that's kind of the big point of the game. Is like, as much as it's about depression and as much as it's about committing suicide, a lot of it is about making the right choices and like realizing that no matter how bad it gets, it will get better. So I don't want to make this too much like an after school special, but like that, it's really important, and this game is really important as well. Like, just a lot of the thoughts and things that it touches on, a lot of the feelings, messages like that, they're really, really important, especially to younger people who may be dealing with these issues. And overall, that's what really makes this game beautiful to me. The art, sure, the art is beautiful, the music's great, the sound effects are great, all of that, but overall, like, the story and the message it sends is beautiful. And to me, that's what makes it art. That is what makes this, not only just makes it art, but makes it, in my opinion, one of the best examples of art in games, because it is really a game that does truly have a message, and it really does kind of send a strong message about what's going on here. So if nothing else, like, that's kind of why I would encourage people to play this. If you've been around depression, if you've been depressed yourself, any of that, like, this is such a good reflection. It's probably the most realistic reflection in gaming that I've ever seen. So if nothing else, that is why I would recommend it. But even if you're not, like, just to get kind of an insight into what that is like, into what being depressed is like, into what dealing with depression is like, into how it affects you, how it affects people close to you, how it affects people that aren't close to you. Because it's really interesting to see all of those relationships play out. And, of course, like I said, like, if it's going to be too sensitive, then, you need to know your limits and know whether or not the game is for you. But I would encourage people who are interested in seeing that perspective, or even just want to kind of view the perspective that someone else has on it. To really, I definitely encourage you to pick up the game, to check it out, and really see where this goes. I was extremely touched by it. I was impressed all the way through, and it was kind of a surreal experience to see it like explained and reflected so well in a game. So that is where I'm going to kind of draw off my conclusions. I highly recommend it. Honestly, it's one of the probably the heaviest games I've played in a long time, and in my opinion, one of the most important games that's come out in a long time. Certainly this year, but maybe even over the past few years. So that is kind of where I'm going to leave this one off. As always, feel free to leave comments. I think the comments on this one could be pretty interesting. Let me know if you've got any thoughts about it, if you've played the game yourself, or if you are thinking about picking up the game. And as always, feel free to subscribe if you like my content, want to see more of this every single day. Sorry for kind of dragging on a bit at the end, but I thought that kind of my thoughts and my conclusions here were pretty important to talk about at the end. So there is that, and of course, as always, if you liked the video, then please consider clicking the like button, because that helps a ton, and I appreciate everything that you do to help. So, with all of that being said, I thank you very much for checking out my video on actual sunlight, and I will see you next time.